The Galactic Academy's orientation hall buzzed with nervous energy as hundreds of species gathered for their first day. Akim sat near the back, her dark eyes scanning the room with quiet curiosity. She was the only human in a sea of scales, fur, feathers, and chitin. Her plain gray uniform marked her as a newcomer from Earth, a species recently accepted into the galactic community, despite the controversies surrounding her kind. The prey species, the gentle Colvians with their rabbit-like features, the fleet-footed Threxians, the herbivorous Quelm, all clustered together near the front, seeking safety in numbers. They whispered among themselves, their translator implants rendering their concerns into a dozen languages simultaneously. Professor Malthan, a distinguished Colvian scholar with silver-tipped ears, stood at the podium arranging his notes. His paws trembled slightly as he prepared to address the new students. The Academy had always been a sanctuary for prey species, a place of learning built on principles of peace and cooperation. But the Galactic Council had mandated integration, and integration meant predators. The doors at the back of the hall hissed open. A hush fell over the room as Verk entered. He was a Varkoth, one of the apex predators from the Crimson Sector, standing nearly 7 feet tall. His muscular frame was covered in midnight black fur with crimson streaks running along his shoulders and spine. His eyes, those terrible golden eyes with vertical slits, swept across the room with practiced precision. Each student he looked at flinched or looked away, all except one. Akim watched him with steady interest, her head tilted slightly to one side. She didn't smell like fear. Verk's sensitive nose picked up curiosity, perhaps even excitement. That was unusual. Most beings radiated terror when he approached. The available seats dwindled as Verk walked down the aisle. Students literally pulled their belongings onto empty chairs, claiming them with desperate determination. A Threxian student even feigned illness, sprawling across 2 seats to prevent the predator from sitting nearby. Verk's jaw tightened, but he kept his expression neutral. He was used to this. Born into a warrior caste, raised to hunt and fight, he had been the first of his species to apply to the Academy. His clan had called him a traitor. The prey species called him a monster. He was beginning to wonder if either assessment was wrong. Then he saw it, an empty seat beside the human girl. He approached cautiously, his clawed feet clicking softly against the polished floor. "May I sit here?" Akim looked up, meeting his gaze without flinching. A smile played at the corners of her mouth. "Of course. I was wondering when someone would show up." Verk sat down, his massive frame making the standard Academy chair seem comically small. Around them the whispers intensified. Professor Malthan's ears had flattened completely against his skull, his eyes wide with barely concealed terror. A predator and a human sitting together, the galaxy's 2 most dangerous species side by side. "I'm Akim," she said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. Verk stared at the small, soft appendage. No claws, no natural weapons at all. Yet humans had conquered their homeworld and reached the stars through sheer determination and ingenuity. He grasped her hand carefully, mindful of his retractable claws. "Verk," he rumbled, his voice a deep bass that resonated in his chest. Professor Malthan cleared his throat, the sound amplified by the hall's speakers. "Welcome, students, to the Galactic Academy. Let us begin with the fundamental principle of our institution, peaceful coexistence among all species." His eyes kept darting to the back of the room, to the human and the Varkoth sitting together as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. "You're the first Varkoth here," Akim whispered as the professor droned on about Academy history. "And you're the only human," Verk replied. "Does that bother you?" She shrugged. "My species spent millennia being afraid of things in the dark. We learned that the best way to overcome fear is to understand what we're afraid of." Her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Besides, everyone here seems more terrified of us than we are of each other." Verk's lips pulled back slightly, revealing sharp canines in what might have been a smile. She was right. The prey species were watching them with the same horrified fascination one might reserve for a supernova. Beautiful, deadly, and impossible to look away from. "Why the Academy?" Akim asked. "Varkoth are known as warriors. This place is about diplomacy and science." "That's exactly why," Verk said quietly. "My people have been warriors for 10,000 years. We're good at it, too good. We've conquered 17 systems and made enemies across the galaxy." He paused, his golden eyes distant. "I want to learn what comes after conquest. What do you build when the fighting stops? Akim nodded slowly, respect evident in her expression. Humans asked ourselves the same question. Turns out we're still figuring it out. Professor Malthan was now discussing the ethics code, his voice gaining strength as he spoke about the sacred principles that governed academy life. No violence, no intimidation, no predation of any kind, even metaphorical. A Threxian student raised a trembling hoof. Professor, is it safe to have predators in the academy? The hall fell silent. Every eye turned to Malthan, then to Verk and Akim. The professor's ears twitched. His survival instincts screamed at him to agree, to validate the fears, to remove the predators and restore the comfortable safety of the old ways. But he was a scholar first, and scholars dealt in truth, not comfort. The Galactic Council believes, he said slowly, choosing each word with care, that true peace cannot exist in segregation. We cannot claim to represent galactic civilization while excluding half the galaxy. His eyes met Verk's, then Akim's. Every student here has been accepted based on merit and potential. Predator or prey, carnivore or herbivore, we are all citizens of the same galaxy. It wasn't a ringing endorsement, but it was something. As the orientation continued, Akim and Verk exchanged occasional comments, finding common ground in their shared status as outsiders. By the time Professor Malthan dismissed the assembly, a strange thing had happened. The terror that had gripped the hall had transformed into wary curiosity. If the human and the Varkoth could sit together without bloodshed, perhaps integration wasn't impossible after all. As they filed out, Verk noticed something that made him pause. Professor Malthan, despite his obvious fear, had given them a chance. That small act of courage meant more than the professor would ever know. "Same time tomorrow?" Akim asked, slinging her bag over her shoulder. Verk's fangs showed in a genuine smile. "I'll save you a seat." Behind them, Professor Malthan watched the unlikely pair leave together, his heart still racing but his mind quietly reconsidering everything he thought he knew about predators, prey, and the space between.